Released in November 21, 1996, as per Google source, WWF In Your House entered your house not just as a show, but as a game where you can control your favorite wrestlers. In the era of Mortal Kombat finishers, WWF wanted to get in on the action by creating up their own gruesome body horror-esque finishers, but within the boundaries and making finishers wacky and wild instead of brutal and just ultimately painful. The class is now in session, and the project at hand is to give the class of the WWF In Your House wrestlers time to get creative and make a super pin that is more WWF than Mortal Kombat. The three categories in which they'll be graded on are as follows. Number 1, were they pinned? Google describes a pin to hold firmly in a specified position so they are unable to move. However, the wrestling definition is to hold an opponent's shoulders on the mat for a 3-second count. Because half of these finishes are wild and out of this world, we did add a caveat, and I'm going to add caveats throughout the video, and judge the pin based on the ease of being able to kick out and whether or not the opponent was pinned to the mat. The next criteria is, was it on theme? This criteria bases the pin purely on the theme of the wrestler and their gimmick. If it makes sense, they get a high score. If it doesn't, it feels weird for them to be doing it, they get a low score. And finally, because this is my class, I will allocate 5 points on how much I like these super pins and how much they've entertained me or how much they moved me. Consider this an art class, and art should ultimately move us. So, let's get started and have the first student, wrestler, come up and present their work.
Tonight, in the squared circle, Shawn Michaels versus Shawn Michaels.
He's cute. He's sexy. He's got the looks to drive the girls wild. He's got the moves that really moves them, and he sends chills up and down their spine. He's the sexy boy, the heartbreak kid, Shawn Michaels. You know, whenever you think of Shawn Michaels, you really think of the little jump strut that he has going to the ring, the HBK pose, him tuning up the band for sweet chin music, and generally just an individual who can captivate and entertain crowds the world over. So it's no surprise that the Heartbreak Kid will be given a super pin called Heartbreak Hotel Smash. HBK was given a stage of the nightclub, which assumes that after the fight, he heads up to the Heartbreak Hotel to break hearts. But I do question if the hotel is truly a hotel, or if it's just an expensive love-making heart-shaped bed with a neon sign that says Heartbreak Hotel, which he uses to squish and squash his opponents under.
Congratulations!
Well, I guess it's the latter. So, how do we rate the pin? How are we gonna grade him? HBK hits his signature pose and waits for the bed to drop from the heavens, essentially pinning the opponent. The category of where they pinned, I really believe that the Heartbreak Hotel Smash pins the opponent in a nice and tight manner, right? They're really tightly packed to the mat where they'll be unable to kick out without the help of outside interference. It's the perfect pin, pretty textbook, pretty standard, and nobody's really going to kick out of it depending on the weight or the strength of the person. I would say they were pinned 5 out of 5. Full marks on that category there. Moving on to the theme. The theme gets a middling score, as the hotel itself makes a bit of sense. Given Shawn Michaels is the sexy boy and the heartbreak kid, it makes sense that he breaks a lot of people's hearts, because, I guess he's sexy and sleeps with a lot of people. I do feel like there was something that could have been used to reference tuning up the band for the sweet chin music, or just anything else to kind of reference to Shawn, but it's still pretty much on theme and pretty on brand and pretty creative for what they had, so I would score this and grade them a 3 out of 5. And finally, we look at the Penguin personal score. I'm rating this a 2 out of 5. Look, I love HBK. He was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up in the early 2000s, but this super pin felt like there could have been so much more to help show off his character in a better way. Am I the person who's going to figure it out? No. Shawn should take it, do some more homework by himself, figure it out, talk to creative, and then they can come up with a better super pin that will, match him a bit more. But overall, that grades him on a 10 out of 15. If I'm looking at my grading sheet properly, that's a C+ on how I do things here. It's a great score, Shawn. It's a pass. Could definitely do better, so work on it.
Tonight, in the squared circle, the man they call Vader versus the man they call Vader.
It's time! It's time! It's Vader time! Cause 6'5", 450-pound Mastodon ran through you like a bull, picked you up and threw you around like a gorilla, could soar and dive from the skies like an eagle, and... Wait, am I reading this right? Has a dump truck, the likes of which has never been seen.
They call Vader gets the win!
Okay. Vader was not treated well during his tenure in the WWE. If we're to believe that the WWE or WWF at the time had a lot of say in the game, it would make sense that they would highlight something that they despise and try to elicit a reaction just to sell tickets and make money for the detriment of the person. So what we get for Vader's super pin is his juicy honka honka of a dump truck crashing down from orbit onto the opponent down below. To say he got the butt end of things would be a huge understatement in terms of the creative nature of this. But with that, let's grade the pin itself. Vader's butt smash is not anything but entirely butt. It's just butt. The size and expansion of his cheeks, probably caused by the radiation in space, encapsulates the body of the opponent from head to knees. It would be safe to say that the weight and size would spread out to such a large surface area, where the pin would probably be a secure and strong one to the mat. The opponent is, in fact, pinned, no question about it. I would rate this a 5 out of 5. I don't think anyone's going to kick out of that, but then again, some people out there in the world may not choose to kick out of it. You know who you are. The theme in which the WWF portrayed Vader really twerks with how Vader is portrayed in this game. A larger fellow would most likely hold a large backside, and the Vader bomb, to my opinion, was the reason to why they made his legs spread out in such a manner. It's good thematically and actually makes sense to the finish, although, I'm really not like a fan of degrading Vader for his size. It still gets a 4 out of 5. It makes sense for the character, it makes sense for, his portrayal at the time. And the Penguin personal score, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. My personal score, though, drops down to a 2 out of 5 for many reasons. Number 1, it's a really garbage way to treat such a star who could have done wonders in the company. Number 2, does his dingle dangle also increase to such an extent like his cake? I don't know how I feel about that. It makes me uncomfortable, but again, to those of you out there, it may make you excited. You know who you are. And number 3, why does the game... Okay, the reason to why this gets a 2 is because the game holds the image for so long after you win. It's like they really wanted to let you know how fat Vader's ass was through the game that they just added like 5 or 6 more seconds of that win screen so that you can just look at it, and it would just really hammer home to the people that bought the game and who were watching wrestling at the time that Vader was just ass. But in a good way. Or I guess in a bad way. Overall, Vader gets an 11 out of 15. Looking through my grading sheet, that brings him to a grade of B, just a flat B. Really well done, Vader. The creative really had your back there. The creative really had your backside there, so no qualms about it. Hopefully you're happy with your grade.
The man they call Vader gets the win! Tonight, in the squared circle, Red Hart versus Red Hart!
You hear the guitar screeching, pink lights flood the arena, and Goldberg's foot starts to itch. The excellence of execution, the best there was, the best there is, the best there ever will be, is in your house. And finally, you get to be in control of one of the greatest submission technicians of all time. What do we have in store for Bret the Hitman Hart? Maybe a gun that will fire out hearts to, hold the opponent down. Maybe even a constricting hold that will cause the person to explode? Oh, wait. What about his classic pink shades crushing the opponent after he makes it large and crazy size, kind of like Sean's Hotel? So, what do we get from Bret? What is their submission to this assignment?
Congratulations!
Oh indeed. The WWF champion drops a human-sized world title onto the opponent, supposedly crushing them to the mat. Jumping into the criteria, I can already tell you that I don't fully believe that the opponent was being pinned, or is actually being pinned at all. Look, a belt, at its best, standing that way, is a circle or a flat line. Yes, you can argue that the belt made some damage and hit the opponent, but with your free limbs, you should really be able to get your shoulders off the mat to break up a pinfall attempt. Right? If you're Rey Mysterio or any of the smaller wrestlers that, wrestled at the time, you could have curled up into a ball and dodged all the damage. Okay, you might be asking or saying that the thin part of the belt lands on the opponent. To which I say, why are you not cut in half then? The opponent, in theory, should be cut into 2 pieces after that. Is Bret's finish just a smug brag about how he's the champ? Is that it? It doesn't really make sense, and I don't fully believe that they get pinned. So 0 out of 5, they weren't pinned. Was it on theme? I scored it a 1 out of 5. I give the theme a 1 out of 5 because, Why does the belt really refer to Brett at all? Like, doesn't really speak much to his character. It does speak to his accolades. Yeah, like he's good at what he does. I mean, you know, he's the Brett there ever was, the Brett there is, and the Brett there ever will be, but there has to be something more to him than the title that he's won. At this point, it makes me think that the title made the man. It's lazy, but it makes sense to why he has it, but it's also not impressive. It's somewhat on theme, 1 out of 5. And you kind of expecting this already. I shouldn't have to tell the class this. It's not a good finish. The Penguin personal score he's getting is a 1 out of 5. It wasn't, like, exciting. Plus, I'd like to add that Brett's moveset wasn't so fun to play with in the game either. They just kind of coasted and said, oh my god, you can play as Bret Hart, but they didn't really, like, show much more. You know, maybe Bret wasn't all of that in the game. You know, he was just a traditional wrestler that did really cool moves. But in terms of the character in the game, it really fell flat. So, final score, 2 out of 15. Bret, you need to retake this class, resubmit something, do something better.
Congratulations! What a matchup this is! The King of Hearts, Owen Hart, versus the King of Hearts, Owen Hart.
The year is 1994, and Owen Hart has defeated Razor Ramon to become the King of the Ring. And he defeated him by himself, and only himself, without the explicit help of Jimmy the Anvil Neidhart. And from that day forward, Owen Hart had his first proclamation letting us peasants know that we are to address him as the King of Hearts. So, Owen Wilson wins the King of the Ring in 1994, and developers wanted people to remember that. It was like when Booker T had his King Booker years, or how Xavier Woods became King Woods, and how King Corbin and King Nakamura had that gimmick run for a bit after winning the King of the Ring. Also, no, I didn't say it wrong. I want to try to develop a theory and let the world know that Owen Hart might secretly just be Owen Wilson, and or they're related. I haven't looked into it that well. With that, we'll jump into the pin. Was he pinned? I would score it a 5 out of 5. Okay, you know, the King of Hearts actually gracefully drops a Throne of Hearts onto his opponent in a move called the Throne Smash. If we are to believe the quality of the object, that the throne must weigh like a throne, made out of gold, you know, all those fancy things, and with a decent distance and height to drop it from, the opponent would most likely be easily pinned on the ground and will be unable to kick out of the said pin. So I would say it's a good super pin, pretty standard, hits all the criteria, 5 out of 5. I can give the theme a 4 out of 5 because it speaks really well to the time. The devs probably started development while Owen had his King of the Ring or King of the Hearts run, and or was, you know, this was the only thing they can actually make a wacky crazy finish into. It's a lot more character than Bret. It really fits to what Owen's accomplishment was and later his gimmick, what I would assume his gimmick to be. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. So 4 out of 5, fits the theme, it works pretty well. Also, he gets to put on the King outfit, which is cool. Moving on to the Penguin personal score, I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5 on enjoyability. Because the throne is on theme, he puts his kingly garb and attire with the speed of which a Yakuza character removes theirs. And overall, it's an average finish, and I know it's just a drop of something on someone, but it's still okay. But it's also not the worst thing in the world, so 2 out of 5. Brings the score up to 11 out of 15. Good job, Owen, not too bad. Really just hitting the boxes right there. Hopefully next time we'll get something cool. We'll see.
Get ready for a real wrestling lesson.
Tonight, in the squared circle, Ahmed Johnson versus Ahmed Johnson.
Debuting at In Your House 3, Ahmed Johnson is quite an interesting figure to me as I don't really know a lot about him. Apparently extremely popular in his first months, and he got his fans through association. Ahmed seemed to be going well in WWE. You know, he has a crazy impressive physique, honestly looks really cool from the ring gear. First ever Black Intercontinental Champion. Like, it really makes sense to why he's in the game. His moveset was primarily grapples, and like Bret, I'm not 100% sure what his character is and what wacky finish you could give him, so I mean we can look at the finish and get to his scoring.
Ahmed Johnson gets the win!
Okay, so Ahmed Johnson literally murders and obliterates his opponent with a super pin. The pin itself is called Axe Handle Demolish. The man with muscles all over literally crushes his opponent so hard they disintegrate and break into many, many pieces. This is where I do get a bit confused though on how to judge the finish or the pin, because you can't really kick out after dying or being obliterated into many pieces, but also there really isn't anything that's pinning you to the mat, you're just lying down. I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 because it's definitely a move you can't kick out of, so it deserves points in that aspect, but it really misses the pin part of the super pin. Like, it's definitely a super move, but yeah, it misses that pin part. Moving on to theme, I'm scoring it a 5 out of 5. Thematically, I think Ahmed Johnson's theme was to just be a wrestler who is strong and powerful. His moveset is based on his strength and has a lot of holds and grapples, but not really a lot else. His stage is just set at a gym, which really doesn't say much more than I am a professional wrestler who is big and strong. 5 out of 5, I'm gonna give it. It really just makes sense for how little there was to Ahmed Johnson. And finally, the personal penguin score, I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5. In terms of enjoyment, it was the middle of the road for me because Ahmed Johnson, a professional wrestler without a gimmick to speak of or garner from within the game, obliterates a human being into dust. It's just, it's a crazy fun visual, and it really puts Ahmed Johnson over for me because he obliterates a human being with his own strength. He doesn't need the hotel, he doesn't need the throne, he just puts his hands together and smashes it on the human, and the human is obliterated. 3 out of 5, very strong. Overall, that gives Ahmed Johnson a 10 out of 15. It's really not a bad score for someone I don't really have much experience on or have much knowledge about. It looks here that he got a C+, so pretty impressed. Not bad, Ahmed. Hopefully everything is going well and you won't obliterate me to dust. I would pray that I won't get that. So, good job.
They'll be talking about that match for a long time. What a matchup this is! Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, versus Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog.
Queen. The King of Pop, Michael Jackson, and Queen Bey herself, Beyonce. What do they all have in common with the British Bulldog, you might be asking? The names in question all sold out Wembley Stadium. SummerSlam 1992 was held in Wembley Stadium in an outdoor arena and had the match to watch. Intercontinental Champion Bret Hart putting his title on the line against the home country man, the British Bulldog. The British Bulldog captures gold with 80,355 people in the stadium cheering him on, and, truly an icon in the music. The wrestling industry. How does the British Bulldog superpin match up to the scoring? Were they pinned? I gave it a 4 out of 5. I would say yes, the opponent in question was definitely pinned. Bulldog stands after the pin, unrolls the Union Jack flag, and proceeds to wrap his opponent, suffocating them in all of his British sweat. Because, where else would he be hiding that flag during a match for not inside of his sweats or inside of his tights? It's all levels of torture, and struggle will not lift your shoulders off the mat, and there's really a low chance of you kicking out. However, I gave it a 4 out of 5 because there's an opportunity to escape if you break through the flag and are able to cut it open. Was it on theme? I'm going to give it 10 out of 10. If I could give it a 10, I could, but it's only 5, so 5 out of 5 for the theme. What else would a Brit overseas do besides suffocate you with their Britishness? Think about it. From comparing the weather and saying it's so sad where they are because it rains all the time, to whatever football team that they decide to follow and are supporting. It's all there, right? It shows just the metaphor of how a British person will talk about their homeland to anyone who would listen. And really, if you don't understand, just get 2 Brits in the room, and they will always, and I will say always, have a massive long live the Queen and her royal family nostalgia trip about Tesco's and a Tesco's meal deal. Look, maybe it's just the British people that I've met, but I've heard so many good things about the Tesco's meal deal. I do want to try it for myself. Maybe it is that bargain. Maybe it's that good. I don't know, but it really just matches the fact that you are screwed in the conversation once 2 Brits that haven't been, that have moved to your country are talking about home. It was all I heard about at work. I do love my friends though. They are great. If you guys end up seeing this, it's not a dig, I promise. It's just, I just could not say anything whenever we were talking about Tesco's because I've never been there. So moving on to the personal score, I give it a 2 out of 5. It comes from the fact that it's good, but it becomes less wacky and interesting compared to the other super pins in the game. It's not bad. It definitely made me jump the first time that it happened, but it's really just wrapping someone up in a flag. I felt like they could have done some sort of bulldog thing by dropping a Union Jack covered doghouse onto it, and a small little British bulldog comes out of it. Something like that. I don't know. Honestly, I think they could have done that, but the budget and animation time spent is a lot cheaper when, you know, you just have to animate someone struggling in a flag. Overall, though, we do give him an 11 out of 15. British Bulldog has a really strong finish, a really strong super pin. Yeah, gets a B. Good job, Bulldog. Long live the Queen, I think.
See ya, and I wouldn't want to be ya. What a matchup this is! The Undertaker versus The Undertaker!
Mark Calloway or The Undertaker is probably a wrestler that you can guarantee your guy friend will have heard of if they're at least the age of 25. The Icon stands as one of the wrestlers that stuck within people's memories, and you know, you had to copy him when he was doing that weird eye thing where he would like send his pupils at the back of his eye, and your friends would do it too, and you would ask each other, are you doing it right? And you would lie to your friend because, you know, clearly you can still see some pupil, but in reality you want to have a friend, so you don't want to hurt his feelings, so you tell him, hey, you're doing a great job, we're still gonna be friends after this, let's forget about maybe The Undertaker and get back to playing tag. The Undertaker surpasses time and maybe continued to wrestle even though he may have been a little bit past his prime. It was really cool to see his entrance when I went to Melbourne for WWE Super Showdown. There's no way in the world that anyone could take away that bucket list tick for me. Seeing him go through his thing, seeing him just walk down that long ass ramp was essentially a dream come true. Alright, I mean pretty much it. You know who The Undertaker is. He's a scary dude, scary dead man, has superpowers, and what else? This is like the perfect person for this video game. Let's look at the category of where they pinned. The Undertaker calls his super pin gravestone, and you literally get buried in another dimension, and or you turn into a gravestone. Either way, you're not kicking out of that. 5 out of 5. Was it on theme? The superpowers that The Undertaker has always been in question from child me to current me, to the point where they've given him power-ups in WWE 2K games where you can dim the lights, disappear, and then reappear behind your opponent.
That's not supposed to happen. Of course it's not, Cole. That's what makes it so effective.
The Undertaker has control of lightning, fire, and, you know, don't forget the minions that he can just summon but never really uses. He's definitely like a lawful neutral kind of guy. He has his own code, but he uses superpowers outside of the ring, and usually not in the ring. The question of if it was on theme or not, definitely on theme. The Undertaker turns you into a gravestone and or buries you in another dimension. Like, how else can it not be on theme for the dead man with superpowers? And finally, we're gonna rate the Penguin personal score. Honestly, Taker's finish really hits home for me. The opponent is either buried or put into another dimension or turned into a tombstone. I'm not gonna not keep saying that. It's crazy how that's real. And honestly, what else can you ask for? It's brutal, it fits his crazy phenom character, and the dead man really does dead man things in the game. And you know, the super pin is the pièce de résistance to his character in WWF In Your House. 15 out of 15, perfect score, Undertaker. That's an A+. Well done. You can go tell your parent? Paul Bearer? Maybe?
Undertaker gets the win! Tonight, in the squared circle, the Bizarre Gold Dust versus the Bizarre Gold Dust.
The man who is made out of gold but has a Rick Ross bark. That's such a fucking intro. To the goldest man in the world who had a Rick Ross bark, the natural to the bizarre, Goldust confused, intrigued, and most likely had some dudes confused about their sexuality in the 90s. But no matter what he did and how he made the majority of the audience feel odd, Goldust proved to be entertaining night in and night out. The natural Dustin Rhodes really showed his ability to be a pro wrestler and shows all of us how you find a niche and a character and that you can capitalize on the idea. Goldust won his debut match In Your House in '95 against Marty Jannetty, and is the type of scandal or intrigue you would want in the game for players to pick up. The son of the plumber with his unique offense and character will forever leave his mark as one of the wrestlers you name when thinking about that era of WWE or WWF. So how is this super pin like? Goldust turns his opponent into actual gold dust and magically shapes it into a statue of himself with his Hollywood robe on. So at this instance, I'm not really sure how you can count this as a pin. because he turns you into gold dust, like actual dust, and reshapes you into the statue. You're not really sure which particles of you is on the mat, right? You can kind of assume that maybe the shoulder particles or the back particles of yourself could be on the mat if it was the bottom of the base. You get transformed into a statue, you're definitely not kicking out of that, and honestly, like, what do you do? What can you do? Was it on theme? Goddamn, if it's not a 5 out of 5 or a 10 out of 10, I don't know what else I could grade it. How weird a move can you get than to turn a person into literal gold dust, and not to just leave them there, but to turn that dust into an image of yourself. The game was made for characters and finishes like gold dust. No arguing, 5 out of 5. And now to the personal penguin score. It really just fits so well together, and it's just visually interesting. With such a weird idea, why else would I fault it? It just hits all the right notes and tones and really just makes the cinematic masterpiece of a super pin for the game. You know, it's just very gold dust. Well done, Gold Dust. 15 out of 15. Maybe get Stardust into it if they make an In Your House 2025 or something like that.
What a matchup this is! The Ultimate Warrior versus the Ultimate Warrior!
Champions of the years 2015, 2017, 2018, and 2022, the Golden State Warriors have spearheaded the world as a dynasty that will most likely ride through the time like the Celtics, the Lakers, the Bulls, and... Wait. My script says Ultimate Warrior, not the Warriors. Oops. I gotta be honest, Ultimate Warrior is someone you would think would be the perfect professional wrestler. The physique, the bright colors, the high energy, the display of power, and the kick-ass music for a theme song or an entrance song, all of these factors combined create and portray what we know today as the Ultimate Warrior. I watched his debut match, and it was as if a comic book hero jumped out the goddamn comic and became a pro wrestler. Moving on to the super pin, they call it Electrify. Again, like with Ahmed Johnson, I can't really figure out if the person was pinned, because Warrior electrocuted his opponents into bits on the ground. The bits stay on the ground, not pinned, and honestly I can't in good faith give it more or less points than I gave Ahmed Johnson. 2 out of 5. Was it on theme? I was really going to give the Warrior a really low score until I saw the intro to WWE Superstars. Apparently there was a show called WWE Superstars or WWF Superstars back then, and I heard the music and I literally just like stood up and I said, yeah, as soon as I heard the music going. Yeah, the video package was a bit weird. Yes, the electricity thing really relates to like the unlimited energy that he has as a character, but the video sold me, and that entrance song being used on TV was just perfect. So 5 out of 5 on the theme. I'm gonna show you like a cut of that intro now. And moving on to the Penguin personal score, the move itself is kinda cool. He has some theatrics where he gathers the electricity and expands it like a Sith Lord. He force lightnings his opponent, and to be honest, the research of the electricity and the Ultimate Warrior was enough to boost the theme score, but for me, watching it over and over again just made it feel like an okay super pin. 2 out of 5. The final score for the Ultimate Warrior, 9 out of 15. Not a bad score, because there's not a lot to go off of it, so don't hang your head too low. There's always other assignments that we can do.
The Ultimate Warrior gets the win! What a matchup this is! Hunter Hearst Helmsley versus Hunter Hearst Helmsley!
If I said Triple H, you would know who I would be talking about. You know, you'd picture a gruff dude who looked like he sang his own theme song, who would tell you to suck it, and be one of those wrestlers that some people might still know, like kind of in the ranks of The Rock or The Undertaker or Hulk Hogan, right? Before the Cerebral Assassin was claiming his throne as the King of Kings, Triple H was known as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the Greenwich Blue Blood. Apart from being rich, a great worker, and just a master in the ring, the most that I know about Hunter Hearst Helmsley as a character is that he debuted the pedigree that was so brutal that it could not be unmentioned. Like, I just have to talk about it on the list. He literally spiked his opponent in what would be how I imagined the pedigree working in real life. Like, come on, the dude was spiked into the ring mat. He was vertical, and it's just how you would imagine the pedigree being used in, say, a movie, or if wrestling was like an actual combat sport, it would be one of those moves where you're like, that's a game ender. Moving on to the pin, we aren't here to judge the pedigree as a finish, we're here to judge what the game calls perfume suction, where Hunter Hearst Helmsley magically makes a perfume bottle appear out of nowhere, and suctions his opponent, turning them into what I can only assume to be liquid, and trapping them as some sort of perfume genie. Similar to Ahmed Johnson and the Ultimate Warrior, I can't really see the opponent being pinned, but also kind of like Goldust, we can't really judge whether the shoulder particles of the opponent, you know, like where it's situated in the bottle. You can't kick out of that unless you're sprayed, but whatever you're sprayed onto, you can't kick out of that either within a 3 count, because it'll take more than a 3 count for you to evaporate and escape the mat. Look, in theory, it really isn't a pin, but in practice it works. I kinda get it. 3 out of 5. Was it on theme? I gave the theme a 2 out of 5 because they could have done something more with the character. Perfume doesn't really strike me as the most rich person thing you can do or portray. Maybe a horse on a stable, or another fancy items or a show of money could have been used. I personally don't vibe with the perfume because it didn't seem to fit. So if we were going off of stereotypes, I feel like they just chose a really odd rich person thing to look into, and they were like, we can't keep dropping money on people, or we can't keep dropping items on people, so we'll give Hunter Hearst Helmsley this little perfume bottle, and hopefully it interests people and keeps things fun. 2 out of 5. Now for the personal penguin score. Now, given the scores of the previous entries, a 4 out of 5 may seem high, but let me explain. It was one of those finishers that kept me wondering and surprised every time I did it. It was weird enough to not just be a falling object, and was weird enough to make me question why they gave it to Hunter Hearst Helmsley. Ultimately, art should move you, and I was definitely moved by the random use of a perfume bottle, and it's just so weird that it's to the point where it's fun. 4 out of 5, giving Hunter a final score of 9 out of 15. Not too bad. Change your name, and everything will be better.
In the WWF.
Congratulations to The Undertaker and Goldust for getting top marks for the assessment. Good job, guys. And good job to Vader and the British Bulldog for holding down a decent score. Mr. Michaels, Owen, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Warrior, and Sir Helmsley, I'm sure you're happy you passed, but do consider where you could have been better and applied for the exam. Brett, I've signed you up to an alternative class on super pins and creativity. Please go see Mr. Jericho's class tomorrow at the same time for his class of 1004 holds. And if you can create something new for your resubmission later on, I'll reconsider. But I hope you all enjoyed that video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're this far into it, please check out the Patreon to support what I do here. Any monetary support will aid in making more videos consistently. If you also join the Patreon, you can have your say and let me know what videos you would like me to make or games you would like me to play. Finally, if you want more content, catch me on twitch.tv/paperpenguin17, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter as paperpenguin17, and hit me up in the comments on your personal grade on these finishers, as I like to see if I was too harsh as a teacher or not. Apart from that, I don't really have a sign off, but I hope you have a good one, and thanks so much for watching. Thanks guys, bye!